This week, it's our quarterly Security Money segment. In our first segment, we'll review the Security Weekly 25 Index. In the second segment, we'll share the results of our Security Weekly 25 Index survey, which we completed earlier this year. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. The question is simple. Have any of the systems on my network been compromised? The answer is harder than it should be. Enter AI Hunter. Active Countermeasures has automated and streamlined techniques used by the best pen testers and threat hunters in the industry to create AI Hunter, a network threat hunting solution that does the first pass of a hunt for you to identify systems that are most likely to be compromised and scores the results on a scale from 0 to 100. You can then research those systems in depth with AI Hunter. Focus your valuable time on the systems that need your expertise with AI Hunter. Sign up for a personal demo today at securityweekly.com/ACM. Let the team at Black Hills Information Security test your defenses. With over 10 years of experience in penetration testing, red teaming, and threat hunting, the testers at Black Hills will help you find the holes in your security before the bad guys do. The team at Black Hills cares about educating and sharing their knowledge by creating countless blogs, open source tools, and webcasts for you to learn more about the tradecraft of pen testing and red teaming. Visit securityweekly.com/BHIS to join their mailing list and view the latest blogs and webcasts from Black Hills Information Security.
Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 147, recorded October 14th, 2019. I am your host, Matt Alderman, here in Colorado, joined by my co-host, Mr. Jason Albuquerque in G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Thanks for coming in on your holiday. It is Columbus Day. My kids are at school. Paul's are home, so Paul's at home with the kids.
Yeah, I mean, Columbus Day, I think, is a Rhode Island thing at this point. I don't know many other people around the country celebrating Columbus Day. So.
It's weird. My kids are actually off on Friday, not today.
Oh, wow.
So we're celebrating the holiday tomorrow because we can't take too many Mondays off or we can't get this show produced enough times in a year.
There you go.
All the fun. The new Security Weekly website is officially live. Visit securityweekly.com to check out all of our new sorting and filtering functionality. Please let us know if you find any issues or have any feedback by sending an email to website@securityweekly.net. We've gotten some great feedback already. Keep it coming. Love the fact that people are checking it out and realizing that it's a heck of a lot easier to find content now.
Yeah, I've had some great feedback from folks that I know that visit Security Weekly a lot, and they love the new website. Absolutely love it.
Good. Now I got to get the member site done.
Always something.
Also, yeah, right. Please help us with 2 surveys. Use the survey dropdown on the new website and select 2019 listener survey to give us your annual feedback. Or select 5 stages of automation maturity to help us measure your degree of security automation. Both sets of survey results will be presented back in webcasts. We're doing the 5 stages of automation maturity in November, and we'll probably do the 2019 listener survey in January. Give us some time to collect the results and get them ready. All right, so this week is our normal quarterly Security Money episode. And Jason, as I think you know, a couple quarters back, we did this in January.
Yep.
I created a Security Weekly 25 Index to track the 25 pure play security vendors in the public market. Yep. And every once in a while, I have to tweak the index because we had some interesting activity last quarter where a couple of the public companies got acquired. And that always makes it really challenging for me. I think the first one I had to do was Imperva. Yeah. Now with Symantec still in the index, but they'll come out soon. Right. Carbon Black got acquired. So it always is something I have to go through and recalculate the index, and it's fun. Yeah. So that's what I did over the weekend.
Living, breathing document is what this is.
Exactly right. So the 2 big changes in the index for this quarter was we replaced Carbonite with CrowdStrike.
Yep.
Carbonite's acquisition of Webroot saw and there's been some lawsuits out there actually.
Yeah, there was a class action suit with Carbonite, and I think they had some. I mean, everything you read, it says lack of organic growth, right? Lack of innovation, lack of organic growth. They had some sales execution issues, and then of course the websites. I mean, the lawsuits, sorry.
Yeah, and then the Webroot acquisition. Yeah. So what you saw was a company that was right around $1 billion in valuation fall below $500 million. And I tried to find those pure plays that were $1 billion market cap or higher. Right. CrowdStrike comes out, IPO, had to add them into the index. You know, their valuation is $15 billion or something like that right now.
Right.
The second thing I had to do is I had to replace Carbon Black because Carbon Black got acquired by VMware and stopped trading on the index. Mm-hmm. The other second IPO that we had this last quarter was Ping Identity. So Ping again coming in to the index. They have a $1 billion. I think they're about $1.5 billion right now valuation. So I had to make some swaps into the index, and I did both of those on September 19th to keep the index consistent through the rest of the quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading some great things about Ping Identity. I mean, smart growth. They're almost net even. Breaking even. Positive cash flow, which is huge. So some good things about Ping Identity, no doubt.
Yeah, we actually just did an interview on API security on Application Security Weekly this morning. It's a great segment on how an identity player really saw some challenges with APIs and API security and actually went from the identity side into doing some API security, where mostly we see it from the application security side. Yep. All right, so where'd the index end up? So last public close was Friday, October 11th. The index was sitting at 1049.19, which means it's only up 4.92% for the year, and that is definitely down from last quarter. We saw some interesting market moves in the security space. We saw CrowdStrike come out hot, but then lose some valuation. We've seen other companies struggle last quarter with their valuations, and it pulled the overall index down.
Yeah. I think I read some of the transcripts from their quarterly call on the CrowdStrike side, and I think the whole VMware acquisition kind of put a little bit of a damper on. I heard the CEO really got hammered with a lot of questions about how they're going to react to that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The endpoint space has made some interesting moves in the past few months. We've seen the acquisition of Carbon Black, but Endgame also being bought by Elastic. So there's been some movement in the endpoint space. So the question is how these guys are going to continue to grow. Yeah. Also, I tracked the NASDAQ because I want to see how we compare to the NASDAQ.
Sure.
So the NASDAQ on Friday closed at 8,057.04, which is an increase of 21.43% for the year, but also, again, down from last quarter. So both the NASDAQ and the Security Weekly Index are both down from last quarter, both of them down. But what you see in down markets, it's interesting. If you look at the graph, and I included the graph in my notes for the show, when the markets are declining, the Security Weekly Index declines faster than the NASDAQ. When the market is growing, the Security Weekly Index grows faster than the NASDAQ. It's a really interesting look at how the markets move when they're going up or down.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great trend that you're tracking, right? To show how you're kind of excelling with the market in a different way than the NASDAQ does. So yeah.
Exactly, and there's so many other companies embedded in the NASDAQ, right? We have Facebook and Apple and Netflix and Google and all these big tech companies in the NASDAQ. And they move the NASDAQ very differently than the security vendors do it. Yeah, and that's why I split them out in the first place.
Yeah, focusing just on the pure play security vendors is very good visibility. I love it. I love seeing this index.
Yeah, it's going to get tough next month, though, when Symantec, if the Broadcom acquisition closes out and Symantec stops trading, it's going to get really interesting of who's my next IPO to replace Symantec in my index.
So now, some of the things that I've read, though, is that Symantec is still going to stay in the space, but they're going to keep their Norton LifeLock brand, I believe is what it is, the consumer side, right? Is that how it's going to work?
Yes, but there are rumors that a private equity firm is interested in buying the consumer components that are left after the commercial entity gets acquired by Broadcom.
Interesting.
So it gets really interesting. Will Symantec actually still be trading if both of those deals happen?
Right.
Now, I haven't seen news lately on whether that PE deal is going to go through or not, but we did cover that on the news on Enterprise Security Weekly a few weeks back, because there were some rumors that a PE might acquire the rest of Symantec.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Quick summary for the quarter. Revenue beat by 2.05% on average. That's up from last quarter. It means that on average, the security companies are beating expectations. Yeah. Earnings beat by 14.48% on average. That's also up from last quarter. So really good quarterly numbers in meeting expectations from a revenue and earnings perspective, but we do see the overall market down a little bit.
Right. No, I think it's still from a visibility perspective. I think it's still a good signs for the pure plays, right? I mean, we're beating expectations. Obviously, the market's kind of going its own way, but I think as long as we keep numbers like this on track, I think we're in a good space, honestly.
Exactly. A couple other things. Average analyst rating is a 1.71. That's a weaker buy. Yeah. It's in between a buy and a hold. Yeah. So you're seeing that's also, again, down from last quarter. So you're seeing a shift to be a little more conservative in the buy-hold range right now by the analysts that are doing ratings.
Do we think it's because of all this consolidation happening? I mean, honestly, is it the market's seeing a lot of consolidation happening, a lot of businesses starting to get acquired in the pure play space? Is that what's creating kind of these weaker buy, almost hold type scenarios?
Yeah, I think one, it is some consolidation, right? You saw some very interesting acquisitions. Yeah. So the question is, what does that do to others in the space? Mm-hmm. And where you'll see some of the lowest ratings, right? If you look at some of the worst rated, SecureWorks, Netscout, and Symantec, these are more established, older legacy solutions that have been in the public market for a while. SecureWorks, not so much, but Netscout and Symantec, right? So you're seeing some caution there in that market.
And what I see as a trend with those, though, is the stagnant innovation. Right, I look at those three, and their innovation hasn't grown really, and they haven't really innovated much. They kind of stayed complacent in the market.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so, as an investor, you're not going to be as interested in buying those if you don't think there's any upside opportunities. So you see lower ratings on those companies. Now, what I thought was interesting is some of the best rated by the analysts was Verint and Radware, which we don't see a lot of at all. Right. We did cover a Radware article on Application Security Weekly, which was an interesting article, but I don't see Verint and Radware a lot.
No,
in the market.
No, but one of the things that just in looking in the background of the companies, what I do see with the trend here is strong innovation and market leadership. They're really pushing toward that level of market leadership.
Yeah, the other two then are Mimecast and Rapid7. Now, Mimecast I like because they're going after the mail security in the cloud, really kind of innovated the way we deal with phishing and some of the other email security issues by protecting O365, I think Gmail now and other things. So you've seen some great innovation in that space.
Yep, definitely.
Rapid7, although started as a traditional vulnerability management player, has added a lot of capabilities in detection and response, gone very horizontal in their strategy. They had great earnings last quarter. They moved to profitability for the first time.
They're partnering with a lot of MSSPs as well, right? To kind of broaden their reach out there. So I know a lot of MSSPs who are leveraging Rapid7 on the back end to manage their businesses, right? So that gets that proliferation of Rapid7's endpoint out there into the industry.
Yeah, and it's not just VM, right? Because now they can bring in their Metasploit, they can bring in their App Spider, they can bring in their detection response capabilities to help MSSPs
whole suite of tools.
build more offerings.
And the visibility that an MSSP needs into those organizations.
Yeah. Best rated, best performance in Q2 was Splunk again, followed by Rapid7. Like I said, Rapid7 had a really good quarter last quarter, both on the earnings and on the revenue side. Worst performers, Netscout. We saw the analyst ratings. And Varonis, again, were the two worst performers.
Yeah, for that one, every time it comes, and again, Varonis is up again. And I look at it like unstructured data protection is such a huge issue from a CISO's perspective, right? Not knowing, not having visibility into the classification of all this unstructured data. It's a need. And I look at this and I always ask why. Is it lack of innovation? Is it their the way they implement and execute? Well, what makes this happen? Because it's such an important factor from a security organization and a CISO's perspective to have that level of visibility and control over unstructured data. It surprises the hell out of me, that one.
I know, because when I go back to my 3 core pillars, app, user, data, Varonis is one of the few public players out there that goes after the data security side, but yet we're not seeing it excel and grow like I would expect it, like we did with SailPoint, what I think we'll continue to see with Ping. Those companies, SailPoint's had put up some great numbers the 2 previous quarters. So you're seeing a lot of movement on identity, but I don't see that same thing on the data side right now.
I know. It surprises the hell out of me.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, we had the Ping identity IPO in Q3, priced at $15, closed on the first day of trading at $20.11. It's still up. It was down a little bit. Like I said, the market's been ebbing and flowing with a lot of the trade discussions and all this other stuff, but they're still above their IPO price. We even saw CrowdStrike dip below their opening IPO price a couple weeks back, which was interesting. And it's recovered since, but it's not at its highs where it was. It's definitely down.
And again, I just wonder if the other things happening in the market with the consolidations is what's driving that, right? Because what kind of clues me into that is looking at their quarterly call with their investors and basically them getting hammered about that. I mean, that was probably the majority of the questions getting asked to the CEO was about what are we going to do about this Carbon Black VMware deal that just happened.
And it's not only that. I mean, you see the Symantec on the endpoint as well.
Exactly.
I mean, Symantec being acquired by Broadcom and Carbon Black being bought by VMware, the 2 biggest acquisitions. I mean, it dwarfed anything on the private side. I mean, the private side acquisition was negligible last quarter, but these 2 public deals were the big needle movers. And so the question is, well, CrowdStrike, can you survive as a standalone endpoint? Do you need to be consumed? It just creates all kinds of interesting questions about the market.
Lots of questions,
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's go to the private side. I do not have September's numbers yet.
Okay.
It takes a while sometimes to get them in. I try to schedule this segment so I have them in, and it's always a crapshoot of whether I have them or not. But through August, there was $1.086 billion in funding. Now we did $1.5 billion the quarter before, and my guess is we will be above that $1.5 billion in Q3 when the September numbers come in. And the reason for that is we're still continuing to see investment on the private side. And there were some big funding rounds last quarter. OneTrust was a $200 million Series A. Series A.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's a huge Series A.
That's amazing.
I mean, I'm used to seeing them as like D's and E's, but not an A, right? Cyber Reason had a $200 million Series E. Now, we were just talking endpoint for a second. Right? So you see all this stuff moving in the endpoint space. You see CrowdStrike go public, take a little bit of hit. Symantec gets acquired. Carbon Black gets acquired. Endgame was acquired the quarter before. Cyber Reason's raising a $200 million Series E because they've got to figure out kind of what's next, right?
Where they play, exactly.
Where's the exit? Yeah, need that cash. Let's see. Menlo Security did $75 million Series D, and I know they made some very interesting investments off of that. I had a few friends actually go over there on the sales and marketing side. So you're seeing Menlo really take that $75 million Series D and starting to make some interesting investments on the sales marketing front. TrustArc did a $70 million Series D, and then Kenna Security did $48 million Series D on the last day of the month on September 30th. They announced that $48 million Series D round. Some, again, really good size investments. But on the acquisition side,
not much.
I mean, pretty much crickets. This quarter, which is interesting. All the big stuff was done in the public market.
On the public side,
Yep. A couple quick hot. I always try to cover a couple of the hot startups. Paul and I see so many companies on a weekly basis, right? Paul's out briefing different companies. And so who are some of the ones that we saw this last quarter that we thought were interesting? We did a really good segment with Now Secure on mobile application security testing.
Yep. No, love what these guys are putting out. Love the conversations that they're having, how they're treating it different than your traditional web app security, really focused on the mobile app side. Very skilled people, very skilled engineering, and I love the story here. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing for people to really understand, and I don't think I really understood it until we did that segment with them, which was how much of your transactions are coming from mobile versus web,
and how differently you need to treat it, right? I mean, how you have to treat mobile application development a lot differently than your traditional web app development, right? And testing and security, and it was an eye opener for me. It really, really was.
Yeah, and as we continue to see this shift, more of our transactions are going to come through mobile, but we're not spending the same amount of time securing our mobile apps. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yep. Which that's why they're on the hot startup list here, and for me, I support that 100%. I mean, we need more focus there.
Exactly. On the data security side, Spirion has been making some headway on the data security front. Have you seen the Spirion?
I have not. I was actually going to ask you about this. Give me a little bit deeper dive into these guys.
Yeah, we've had Paul knows this better than I do. Gabriel Gums has come on. We did a segment with them at Black Hat. But again, data security is one of those key areas for me. And we're starting to see some newer startups really start to go focus on the security side. I believe they're on the encrypted data side is where they're focused. And again, if we could encrypt all the data wherever it is, to me, it doesn't matter where the data is, because if you don't have the keys, you can't gain access to it, right? It's like the Nirvana case.
Yeah.
That's more for the homomorphic encryption guys. I don't think that's where Spirion is, but I do believe it's related to some of the encryption of data aspects, and definitely seeing some interesting traction.
I mean, just quickly, I did, once we started talking about the structure of the show today, I did a quick look at them. And I mean, I looked at, data discovery, classification, protecting and compliance, but I didn't know if it was like on the Varonis side where it's unstructured data. Is it looking at, structured data within the organization? So that's why I wanted to take a little bit more deeper dive with you to learn more.
That's where we need Paul. That's his job.
Yeah. CTO.
And he's off today. Cheers. The other one that it popped up, and I think we actually have a webcast coming up with these folks, is Great Horn on the email security front. Again, we saw stagnation with email security for a while. If you look at Proofpoint as a public company, they just kind of been steady as she goes. They added a lot of other capabilities to the portfolio with web. Some data aspects and other things, but not a lot of innovation on email security. Then we see Mimecast pop up in the public space, going after O365 and Gmail accounts. But there is some innovation happening again under the covers with companies like Great Horn and others on the email security front. So this is a newer sponsor actually that is doing some work with us, and I'm pretty sure we have a webcast coming up with them in I think December.
Yep. And they do incident response as well, don't they? They're not just on the email security side, right?
November 21st. Gotta love voice of God.
It's a great thing.
Yeah, so that was a quick summary of the Security Weekly 25 Index, kind of what's going on in the public market, what's going on the private side. Again, something I like to track quarterly just to help educate our audience on what's going on.
Absolutely. It's great visibility, too, to see where everything's going, and how some organizations are consolidating down, and kind of where some of the markets are pushing toward the future. So, no, I love this visibility into the market.
And with that, we'll take a quick break, and then we're going to cover the results of our Security Weekly 25 Index survey.